Welcome back to the another video tutorial from TI Lectures. In this video lecture, we'll be discussing about the adrenal gland and the hormones which are produced from the adrenal gland. As we know, there are different gland organs inside our body, and every gland has its own particular function. And today we'll see the importance of the adrenal gland and the hormones which are produced from the adrenal gland and their important functions. If we see that this adrenal gland, it is also called as suprarenal gland. It is also called as suprarenal gland. Adrenal gland is also called as suprarenal gland, right? The human body has two adrenal glands. Here you can see the image of the adrenal gland. These are cap-like structures present on each kidney. This is one kidney, this is another kidney, right? So on these two kidneys, two adrenal or suprarenal glands are present. That means these adrenal glands are situated on the top of each kidney, and each adrenal gland weighs 4 to 5 grams in an adult. Each adrenal gland weighs 4 to 5 grams in an adult, right? So if we see the structure of the adrenal gland, each adrenal gland is composed of two distinct parts. It's composed of two different parts. Here you can see I have separated one kind of adrenal gland here. It's composed of two important distinct regions. One is called as adrenal medulla. This is inner part, the red color part, and the outer is called as adrenal cortex. So two distinct parts are present. The outer part called as adrenal cortex and the inner part is called as adrenal medulla, right? The hormones of the adrenal gland, they are called as adrenocorticotropic hormones because they are the kind of steroid compounds made from the cholesterol. So the hormones of adrenal gland are called as adrenocorticoid hormones. These are called as hormones of the adrenal gland are called as adrenocorticoid, adrenocortical hormones. Adrenocortical. These are called as adrenocortical hormones. Why? Because they are a kind of steroid compounds made from the cholesterol, right? So first we'll have a look on the outer part of the adrenal gland, that's known as adrenal cortex. First we'll see adrenal cortex, right? Adrenal cortex produces two important hormones. Adrenal cortex produces two important hormones. One is called as mineralocorticoid hormone, right? Adrenal cortex produces it produces three important hormones. One is called as mineralocorticoid hormone. The most important mineralocorticoid hormone is aldosterone. The most important mineralocorticoid hormone is aldosterone, right? Adrenal cortex produce important hormones. One of the important kind of hormone is mineralocorticoid hormone, and the most important mineralocorticoid hormone is called as aldosterone, right? So when aldosterone is produced as a mineralocorticoid from the adrenal gland, when there is a decreased blood flow to the kidney or a drop in the blood pressure, right? When there is decreased blood flow, decreased blood flow. When there is decreased blood flow to the kidneys, an important enzyme is produced that is known as renin. And what renin does, renin stimulates an important, it releases the important kind of this enzyme that is known as angiotensin second. Angiotensin second. When there is decreased blood flow to the kidneys, or when there is drop in the blood pressure, the important renin is enzyme is produced, secreted, which stimulates the production of angiotensin second, and angiotensin second in turn stimulates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal gland. This is responsible for production of aldosterone. Right? So this aldosterone, when this aldosterone is produced from the adrenal gland, this aldosterone causes salt and the water reabsorption in the bloodstream from the kidneys, thereby increasing the blood volume and restoring the normal salt level and the blood pressure inside the body, right? So when there is low blood flow to the kidneys, or decreased blood flow, or drop in the blood pressure, what happens? Renin is secreted. After secretion of the renin, it stimulates the production of angiotensin second, and ultimately angiotensin second causes the production of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex part of the adrenal gland, right? And what aldosterone does, it restores the salt and water. It restores this reabsorbs the salt and water inside the bloodstream from the kidneys, thereby increasing the blood volume and restoring the salt levels and blood pressure, right? So if there is no aldosterone production, what will happen? Without aldosterone, the kidney loses excessive amount of salt, then excessive amount of water, then it will lead to the severe dehydration and ultimately the low blood pressure. Got my point? So now we'll see the another kind of the hormone which is produced from the adrenal cortex. That's called as glucocorticoid hormone, right? First was the mineralocorticoid, and second is the glucocorticoid hormone, right? One of the most important glucocorticoids made in the adrenal gland, adrenal cortex part of the adrenal gland, is cortisol. One of the important glucocorticoid is cortisol, right? And cortisol, it's the secretion of cortisol is mainly controlled by three intercommunicating regions of the body. You got my point? The cortisol production or cortisol release depends on the three intercommunicating regions of the body. One is hypothalamus, another is pituitary gland, and third is the adrenal gland. This whole intercommunicating glands, these whole intercommunicating regions of the body are called as hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. These are called as hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. These three important intercommunicating regions of the body, one is hypothalamus, another is pituitary, and the third is adrenal, is called as hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis system of the body, right? So after this stimulation of this, when cortisol levels in the blood are below normal, the cells of the hypothalamus release corticotropin releasing hormone. You got my point? When there is low cortisol inside the blood, inside the circulatory pipelines of our body, what will happen? The cells of the hypothalamus, they release an important kind of hormone that's known as corticotropin releasing hormone. Hypothalamus produces corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. And this corticotropin releasing hormone causes pituitary gland to secrete adenocorticotropic hormone. This causes pituitary gland to secrete adenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. You got my point? When there is low cortisol levels in the blood, cells of the hypothalamus are stimulated to secrete the CRH hormone, that's corticotropin releasing hormone, which in turn causes pituitary gland to secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone. And adrenocorticotropic hormone, when it raises inside the bloodstream, this causes the adrenal gland to release the cortisol hormone, to release the cortisol from the adrenal cortex region of the adrenal gland. And when this happens, cortisol levels inside the bloodstream raises, and almost, if we see, every cell in the body have the receptors for the cortisol. And then when there are receptors present on every cell of the body, that means this cortisol performs number of different functions, and it depends on which cell it is acting upon. You got my point? So the functions of the cortisol, if we see the functions of the cortisol, it include the controlling the body's blood sugar level, right? Important one, it controls the blood sugar levels of the body. Number second, it regulates the metabolism of the body, right? It has an anti-inflammatory agent. You got my point? Sometimes it helps in the memory formation, right? It's responsible for controlling salt and water balance inside the body, right? It influences the blood pressure and helping the development of the fetus. So these are important kinds of functions which are attributed to the hormone cortisol, which is an important kind of glucocorticoid hormone which is produced from the adrenal cortex region of the adrenal gland. Got my point? Now, in the next video lecture, we'll see the another important section that's known as adrenal medulla, and the hormones which are being produced from the adrenal medulla. Thank you.